Jake Harrison stood by the large window in the human embassy building on Nexus Prime. He looked out at the alien city below. The tall buildings reached toward the purple sky. Ships flew between them like silver birds. This place should have been amazing. Instead, it made him angry. He turned back to watch the big screen on the wall. Ambassador Lisa Brennan was speaking to the Galactic Council again. This was her 100th speech asking for help. Maybe more. Jake had stopped counting. Lisa's voice was calm and professional. She talked about the outer colonies. She talked about human families who had built homes on new worlds. She talked about the Krellian raiders who kept attacking those homes. People were dying. Children were dying. The council needed to do something. A tall alien appeared on the screen. His name was Thex. He was from a species called the Vespians. They looked like giant insects standing on two legs. Thex moved one of his thin arms in a dismissive way. The translator spoke his words in a flat, emotionless voice. The Krellian expansion is natural economic movement. Humans must learn to share space and resources. Fighting would make things worse. We suggest more talking. Jake's hands made tight fists. More talking. Always more talking. Last week, 3 more human settlements went silent. 57 people were confirmed dead. 200 were missing. The week before that, it was 4 settlements. The week before that, 6. This had been going on for 3 years now. 3 long years of asking for help. 3 years of being told to wait, to be patient, to keep talking. On the screen, Lisa kept her face calm. Jake knew her well enough to see the strain in her eyes. She had this job for 5 years now. 5 years of smiling at aliens who looked down on humans. 5 years of being polite to people who thought humanity was too young, too emotional, too primitive to really matter. The Galactic Council has laws against taking territory by force, Lisa said. Her words were careful and precise. We request protection under Article 12 of the Founding Charter. We need peacekeeping forces sent to the outer colonies immediately. Thex's translator spoke again. Your request has been noted. It will be reviewed at the next quarterly meeting. The next quarterly meeting was 6 months away. In 6 months, how many more settlements would go silent? How many more families would die while the council reviewed requests and formed committees? Jake watched Lisa's face on the screen. For just a moment, her mask slipped. He saw the rage there, the frustration, the helplessness. Then she thanked the council politely and ended the transmission. 20 minutes later, Lisa walked into her office. She looked tired. More than tired. She looked like someone carrying a weight too heavy to bear. She sat down in her chair and put her head in her hands. Captain Kyle Mitchell stood near the window. He was in charge of embassy security. He had been in the military for 20 years before taking this job. He was a practical man who believed in action, not words. How much longer can we keep doing this? Kyle asked quietly. Lisa looked up at him. Her eyes were red, but she had not been crying. She was too angry to cry. As long as we have to. The other choice is war. When we joined the council, they promised us peace. We have to believe they will keep that promise. And if they do not keep it? Kyle asked. Lisa did not answer. She did not need to. They both knew what was happening back on Earth. Behind all the diplomatic smiles and careful words, the human military was preparing, building, planning, getting ready for the day when patience finally ran out. Jake came into the office. He had files in his hands. Reports from the outer colonies. 3 more distress calls came in today, he said. The council has not responded to any of them. Lisa took the files. She read through them slowly. Each one was a story of families in danger, people asking for help that would never come in time. Send the reports to Earth Command, she said. Let them know the council is still doing nothing. They already know, Jake said. Everyone knows. The whole galaxy knows the council does not care about human lives. They think we are too new to the stars, too inexperienced. They think we will just accept this and keep quiet. Maybe they are right, Kyle said. Everyone looked at him in surprise. He continued. Maybe we are being too patient, too quiet, too willing to play by their rules while our people die. Lisa stood up and walked to the window. She looked out at the alien city. Somewhere out there in the galaxy beyond this world, human colonists were crying for help. Human children were going to bed scared. Human parents were wondering if tomorrow would be the day raiders came to their settlement. We joined the Galactic Council 73 years ago, she said softly. We came with hope. We wanted to be part of something bigger than ourselves. We wanted to learn from older, wiser species. We wanted peace. She turned back to face them. But peace has to go both ways. We have done everything they asked. We followed every rule. We filed every report. We attended every meeting. We smiled through every insult about our primitive emotions and our violent history. We did all of this because we believed in the system. And now? Jake asked. Lisa was quiet for a long moment. Now we wait a little longer. We give them one more chance. Because once we stop believing in the system, once we take matters into our own hands, everything changes. We cannot take that step lightly. Kyle nodded slowly. He understood. Starting a war was easy. Living with the consequences was hard. But so was watching good people die while politicians talked and did nothing. That night, Jake could not sleep. He stood in his quarters looking at pictures on his data pad. His sister lived in the outer colonies. She had 2 young children. They had moved there 5 years ago, full of dreams about building a new life under alien stars. Now those dreams were turning into nightmares. Every message from his sister was filled with fear. Raiders had hit a settlement just 50 miles from her home last month. They were getting closer. Jake sent her a message. He told her to be safe. He told her that help was coming. But even as he typed the words, he wondered if they were true. How much longer would humanity wait? How much longer could they wait? Across the galaxy in the outer colonies, colonists went to bed with weapons nearby. They set up watch schedules and alarm systems. They taught their children where to hide if raiders came. They did all of this while waiting for the Galactic Council to send help. That help never came. The call came at 3 in the morning, Earth time. Captain Ben Torres was working the night shift at Fleet Command headquarters. He had done this job for 2 years. Most nights were quiet. Ships came and went. Reports were filed. Nothing exciting ever happened. Tonight was different. The emergency channel crackled to life. A young voice came through, shaking with fear. Ben would remember that voice for the rest of his life. This is New Haven calling any Federation ship. Please respond. We are under attack. Multiple Krellian warships in orbit. They are not raiding. They are bombing us. They are hitting the cities. We have families in the shelters, children. Please, someone help us, please. Then came sounds that Ben would hear in his nightmares. Explosions, screaming, the sound of a building collapsing. Then static, just static. Ben tried calling back. No response. He tried again. Nothing. The signal was dead. He activated the emergency protocols. Within minutes, every senior officer in Fleet Command was awake and connected. Within an hour, 3 Federation relief ships were racing toward New Haven at maximum speed. But they were 8 hours away. 8 hours was too long. When the relief ships arrived, they found ruins. New Haven had been home to 42,000 people. Now it was a graveyard. Entire neighborhoods had been turned to glass by orbital bombardment. The heat had been so intense that metal had melted. Bodies were ash. The rescue team searched for survivors. They found hundreds, not thousands. People who had been in the deepest shelters. People who had been far from the cities when the bombing started. People who would be haunted by what they had seen for the rest of their lives. The death toll was devastating. 42,000 people gone in a single night. Among them were 8,000 children. Schools had been hit. Hospitals had been hit. Even the shelters had been targeted. This was not a raid. This was not an accident. This was mass murder. Admiral John Parker was at a military conference on Earth when it happened. He was in a meeting about supply logistics when an aide ran into the room. The aide's face was white. He handed Parker a datapad without saying a word. Parker read the message. His hands started shaking. His wife had been visiting their daughter on New Haven. Their daughter lived there with her 2 children, Parker's grandchildren. A boy age 7 and a girl age 4. They were in the primary target zone. Parker stood up slowly. Everyone in the room was watching him. They had all just received the same news. New Haven was gone. Tens of thousands of humans were dead, and the Galactic Council had done nothing to prevent it despite years of warnings. Contact Ambassador Brennan, Parker said. His voice sounded strange even to himself. Hollow. Empty. Tell her to call an emergency session of the Galactic Council. Immediately. 48 hours later, the Galactic Council assembled. Representatives from 100 worlds filled the Great Chamber on Nexus Prime. They all knew why they were there. News of New Haven had spread across the galaxy. Lisa Brennan walked into the chamber. She looked different. The other ambassadors noticed it immediately. She was not smiling. She was not trying to be friendly. She walked to the center of the floor and stood there waiting. Thex, the Vespian council head, spoke first. His voice came through the translator in that same flat tone. We understand this is a difficult time for humanity. We share your grief. However, we must all remain calm and avoid actions that could make the situation worse. Lisa did not respond right away. She just stood there looking at Thex, looking at all of them. The silence stretched out, becoming uncomfortable. When she finally spoke, her voice was cold. Not sad, not angry, just cold. 42,000 human beings are dead. 8,000 of them were children. We have filed 116 formal complaints about Krellian aggression over the past 3 years. We followed every protocol. We waited for your justice. We believed in your system. She paused. We were wrong to believe. Thex shifted uncomfortably. We will form an investigation committee to examine what happened at New Haven. We will determine responsibility and appropriate actions. But humanity must not take matters into its own hands. That would violate the non-aggression pact that you signed when joining the council. An investigation committee. They wanted to form a committee. To investigate? To examine. To determine. While human bodies were still being pulled from the ruins. Lisa's voice dropped to barely above a whisper, but every translator in the chamber picked it up clearly. Then humanity formally withdraws from the Galactic Council. Effective immediately. We are done waiting for your justice. We are done believing your promises. We are done, the chamber erupted. Aliens from 100 worlds started talking at once. Some shouted protests. Others made threats. Some tried to reason with her. Lisa ignored them all. She simply turned around and walked out. Captain Kyle Mitchell and the entire human diplomatic staff followed her. They left the chamber. They left the building. By the end of the day, they had left Nexus Prime entirely. Every human diplomat in council space was coming home. Back on Earth, Admiral Parker sat in a secure room deep underground. Around the table with him were the Secretary General and the Military High Command. On the walls, holographic screens showed fleet positions, weapon systems, target data. Secretary General Ellen Hayes looked at each person in the room. We all know what this means. Once we start, we cannot stop. The galaxy will call us aggressors. They will say we are the warmongers they always feared. Admiral Parker stood up. He placed both hands flat on the table. His voice was steady, but his eyes looked empty, like something inside him had died at New Haven. Let them call us whatever they want. Let them fear us. We tried peace. We tried patience. We tried doing things their way. He looked around the table at faces he had known for years. Good people. Honorable people. People who had wanted to believe that joining the Galactic Council was the right choice. My wife is dead. My daughter is dead. My grandchildren are dead. 42,000 of our people are dead. Because we believed in a system that did not believe in us. He straightened up. Now we do it our way. Ellen Hayes nodded slowly. She looked tired, old, but her voice was firm. Then I am authorizing Operation Reckoning. May God have mercy on us all. Across human space, military bases came alive. Ships that had been hidden in deep space for years moved toward assembly points. Weapons systems that had been built in secret were brought online. Soldiers who had trained for a war they hoped would never come received their orders. Humanity's patience had broken. Now the galaxy would learn what that meant. The Krellian High Command did not take the human withdrawal seriously. They sat in their war room on their home world and laughed. Humans were weak, they told each other. Humans were soft. They had no stomach for real war. The Krellians were a warrior race. They had conquered 17 star systems in the past century. Their military was strong and experienced. What could one young species do against them? Humans had been in space for less than 200 years. The Krellians had been fighting wars for thousands. They were about to learn a hard lesson. Commander Jake Harrison stood on the bridge of the Federation destroyer called Liberty's Edge. Around him, officers worked at their stations in focused silence. On the main display, hundreds of dots represented human warships. All of them were his allies. All of them were ready. Jake had been training for this moment for 3 years. Every simulation, every wargame, every tactical exercise, all of it had been preparing for this day. The day when humanity stopped talking and started fighting. The fleet was massive. 300 warships all built in secret over the past 70 years. While humanity had been playing nice with the Galactic Council, their shipyards had been working overtime. While they had been filing complaints and attending meetings, their engineers had been designing weapons. The Council had thought humans were focused on peace. They were wrong. Humans were focused on survival, and sometimes survival meant preparing for war while hoping for peace. Admiral Parker's voice came through the communication system. It echoed across every human ship in the fleet. All ships, this is Admiral Parker. In 10 seconds, we jump to Krellian space. When we arrive, you have authorization to fire at will. Show them what happens when you break humanity's patience. Show them what happens when you murder our children. The countdown began. 10, 9, 8. Jake felt his heart pounding. 7, 6, 5. He thought about his sister in the colonies. 4, 3, 2. He thought about all the families who had died, waiting for help that never came. 1. Space twisted. Reality bent. Then they were there, not at a border outpost, not at a remote colony. They had jumped directly into orbit around the Krellian homeworld. 300 human warships appeared in the heart of enemy territory without warning. The Krellians were caught completely by surprise. Their defense fleet was scattered. Some ships were at dock for maintenance. Others were on patrol in distant systems. Only about 50 warships were actually in position to defend their homeworld. It was not enough. The battle was not glorious. There were no heroic speeches or dramatic moments. It was efficient, brutal, calculated. Humanity had spent years studying every battle the Krellians had ever fought. They knew their tactics. They knew their weaknesses. They knew exactly how to beat them. Human ships moved in coordinated groups. They used formations the Krellians had never seen before. They employed tactics that broke every rule of honorable warfare that the Galactic Council had established. They did not care about honor. They cared about winning. Railgun rounds tore through Krellian shields. Missile swarms overwhelmed their point defense systems. Human ships were smaller and faster than Krellian vessels. They struck and moved, never staying in one place long enough to be targeted effectively. Jake watched as Krellian defense stations exploded. He watched as their ships tried to form defensive lines and failed. He watched as the same species that had bombed New Haven learned what it felt like to be helpless. He felt nothing. No satisfaction, no joy. Not even anger anymore. Just a cold determination to see this through. For New Haven. For every human settlement that had cried for help while the Council debated and delayed, the Krellian military command tried to organize a counterattack. They called in reinforcements from nearby systems. They activated every defense satellite and orbital platform. They threw everything they had at the human fleet. It was not enough. 16 hours after the battle began, it was over. The Krellian home fleet was destroyed. 90% of their orbital defenses were rubble. Their military command center was a smoking crater. Their shipyards were burning, and humanity had barely taken any losses. A few damaged ships, a few hundred casualties. Nothing compared to what the Krellians had lost. Admiral Parker's face appeared on every communication screen in Krellian space. Every television, every computer, every data pad. The Krellians could not escape his message. People of the Krellian Empire, he said. His voice was calm, almost gentle. That somehow made it more terrifying. Your military attacked our colony at New Haven. They killed 42,000 civilians, including 8,000 children. Your government ignored our requests for peace. Your leaders believed we were too weak to respond. He paused. They were wrong. You have 24 hours to surrender your remaining military forces and submit to Federation occupation. If you refuse, we will assume you wish to continue this war, and we will oblige you. We tried peace. You chose war. Now you will learn what total war means to humanity. The message ended. Across the Krellian homeworld, people stared at their screens in shock. Their mighty military had been crushed in less than a day. These humans they had dismissed as weak and primitive had destroyed them with ease. The Krellian government held an emergency meeting. Some wanted to fight on. They talked about honor and pride and never surrendering. Others looked at the tactical data and saw the truth. If they kept fighting, humanity would not just defeat them. Humanity would erase them. 8 hours after Admiral Parker's message, the Krellian government sent their response. Unconditional surrender. They would disarm. They would submit to occupation. They would accept any terms humanity demanded. They had no choice. On the bridge of Liberty's Edge, Jake received the news. The war was over. They had won. New Haven had been avenged. So why did he still feel empty inside? Captain Kyle Mitchell stood beside him, looking at the same tactical display. Is this what victory feels like? Kyle asked quietly. Jake shook his head. This is not victory. This is just the beginning. The galaxy is watching us now. They have seen what we can do. Some will respect that. Others will fear it. And some will want to test us to see if we were just lucky against the Krellians. Then we will teach them the same lesson, Kyle said. Jake nodded slowly. Yes, we will. Because we cannot go back to being the species that waits patiently while others decide our fate. We cannot go back to believing in systems that do not protect us. We tried that for 73 years. It cost us 42,000 lives. He turned to look out at the stars through the viewport. Somewhere out there, the Galactic Council was meeting. They were talking about humanity now, arguing about what to do. Some would want to punish humans for this aggression. Others would be too scared to try. Let them talk. Humanity was done listening. The emergency session of the Galactic Council was the largest gathering in its history. Every member species sent representatives. Even species that rarely attended council meetings showed up. Everyone wanted to talk about humanity. Lisa Brennan stood in the observation area above the main chamber. Humanity was no longer a member of the council, but she had been invited to attend as a witness. That was the official reason. The real reason was that everyone wanted to see the human reaction to what was about to happen. The council floor was chaos. Dozens of species talked at once. Their translators created a wall of overlapping noise. Accusations flew back and forth. Some species defended humanity. Most condemned them. Thex, the Vespian council head, finally called for order. The noise slowly died down. When he spoke, his voice carried across the chamber with authority. Humanity has committed an act of unprecedented aggression. They destroyed the Krellian home fleet. They occupied Krellian territory. They did this without council authorization. This cannot be allowed to stand. We must take action. A representative from the Torvan species stood up. The Torvans were small, peaceful beings. They believed strongly in diplomacy. Humanity was provoked. The Krellians killed 42,000 human civilians. The council did nothing. What did you expect them to do? Thex's response was sharp. We expected them to wait for proper justice. We expected them to follow the law. Instead, they have shown their true nature. They are dangerous, unpredictable. They must be contained before they become a threat to all of us. The word contained hung in the air like a threat. Lisa felt her hands tighten on the railing. She had expected this. The council was scared. Fear made people do stupid things. A signal light blinked near Lisa. Someone was requesting permission for her to speak. She nodded to the attendant, who activated the communication link. Lisa's voice filled the chamber. Every species stopped talking. Every eye turned toward the observation area where she stood. You want to talk about humanity's true nature? Then let me tell you about it. For 73 years we followed your rules. Every single one. We brought you our problems. We filed the correct forms. We attended the right meetings. We were patient. So very patient. She paused, looking directly at Thex. We filed 116 complaints about Krellian aggression. 116. Each time you told us to wait. To be patient. To give you more time. So we waited. While we waited, our people died. Our settlements were raided. Our children were kidnapped. Her voice grew harder. Then the Krellians bombed New Haven. Not a military base. Not a shipyard. A civilian colony. They killed 42,000 people. 8,000 of them were children. And what did this council do? You formed an investigation committee. An investigation committee. Lisa stepped closer to the railing. You say humanity is dangerous? You say we are a threat. You had 73 years to protect us. You failed. You chose bureaucracy over justice. You chose process over lives. You chose comfort over doing what was right. The chamber was silent now. Every species listened. So yes, we broke your rules. We took justice into our own hands, and we will continue to do so. Because we learned something in those 73 years. The galaxy does not respect patience. It sees kindness as weakness. It mistakes diplomacy for cowardice. She looked around at all of them. You want to contain us? You want to stop us? Then I have a suggestion. Remember what happened to the Krellians. They thought humans were weak. They thought we would not fight back. They were wrong. Thex stood up, his body language showing anger even through his alien form. Is that a threat? Are you threatening this council? Lisa's response was calm. No, it is a fact. If you attack us, we will defend ourselves. If you try to contain us, we will break free. If you want peace with humanity, then give us the respect we have earned. We are not asking for permission anymore. We are informing you of reality. She disconnected the communication link and left the observation area. Behind her, the council chamber erupted into shouting. Let them shout. Words were cheap. Humanity had tried words for 73 years. 3 weeks later, a species called the Draknor Collective made their move. The Draknor were one of the oldest and most powerful species in the galaxy. Their empire was ancient. Their military was legendary. They had never lost a war. The Draknor leadership saw humanity's actions against the Krellians as a challenge. An insult. A young species did not get to act this way. Someone needed to teach humans their place. The Draknor volunteered to be humanity's teachers. They declared war on humanity with great ceremony. Their emperor gave a speech about honor and tradition. Their military commanders promised a quick victory. They assembled a massive fleet. 200 warships, the largest military force seen in this part of the galaxy in a generation. Captain Ben Torres received command of a human carrier group called Phoenix Wing. His force consisted of 60 ships. 60 against 200. On paper, it looked like suicide. Everyone expected the humans to retreat, to call for help, to do something other than face the Draknor head-on. Instead, Ben led his force straight toward the Draknor fleet. The two forces met near a gas giant in neutral space. The Draknor moved into their traditional battle formation. It was a formation they had used for 1,000 years. It had never failed them. Humanity had studied that formation. They knew its strengths. More importantly, they knew its weaknesses. The battle lasted 6 hours. When it was over, the Draknor fleet was in pieces, 90% casualties. Their flagship was destroyed. Their admiral was dead. The survivors retreated in disorder, unable to believe what had happened. Ben's force had lost 12 ships, 12 out of 60. Painful losses, but nothing compared to what the Draknor had suffered. The Draknor could not accept this defeat. They assembled another fleet, larger this time, 300 ships. They were going to crush these upstart humans once and for all. Humanity did not meet them in another fleet battle. Instead, human ships struck at Draknor supply lines. They hit communication stations. They attacked the shipyards where Draknor vessels were built. They destroyed the infrastructure that supported the Draknor military machine. The Draknor called these tactics dishonorable. They said humans fought like cowards. They were right about one thing. Humans did not care about fighting honorably. They cared about winning. 47 days after they declared war, the Draknor Emperor contacted Earth. He wanted to negotiate peace. The great Draknor collective, undefeated for 1,000 years, was asking humanity for terms. The terms were harsh. Complete disarmament of offensive military forces, war reparations paid to New Haven survivors, full recognition of human territory, a public acknowledgement of Draknor crimes against humanity. The Draknor Emperor agreed to everything. The galaxy was watching. The galaxy was learning. Humanity was not weak. Humanity was not soft. When pushed far enough, when their patience finally broke, humans were unstoppable and the galaxy would never forget. 2 years after New Haven, Jake Harrison received a promotion. He was now a captain with his own ship, the Federation cruiser called Storm's End. His crew was young but experienced. All of them had fought in either the Krellian campaign or the Draknor War. All of them understood what they were protecting. Jake stood on the bridge watching his crew work through routine drills. Everything was quiet today. His ship was patrolling the border between human space and what used to be Krellian territory. The Krellians were under occupation now. They had learned their lesson the hard way. A communication alert blinked on his screen. An incoming message from Fleet Command. Jake opened it and read quickly. His expression remained neutral, but inside he felt a familiar tension building. "Helm, set course for Sector 7, he ordered. "Best speed. We have a situation." The situation was this. A species called the Menthar had attacked a human research station. The station was in disputed territory. The Galactic Council claimed it belonged to the Menthar. Humanity disagreed. For 6 months, diplomats had argued about it. The Menthar got tired of arguing. They decided to take what they claimed was theirs. 37 human scientists were dead. The research station was destroyed. The Menthar fleet was still in the area, daring humanity to respond. Jake's ship arrived 12 hours later. 3 other Federation vessels joined him. Together, they faced a Menthar battle group of 8 ships. The Menthar commander sent a message. His tone was arrogant. "Human vessels, you are in Menthar space. Leave now or face the consequences. You may have defeated the Krellians and Draknor, but we are not so weak. We will not be intimidated." Jake did not respond. He simply gave the order to fire. The battle was over in 17 minutes. All 8 Menthar ships were destroyed. Not damaged, not disabled. Destroyed. Jake made sure there was no doubt about human intentions. He sent 1 rescue pod with survivors back to Menthar space. They carried a message. "You killed 37 of our people. We killed 300 of yours. The next time you attack humans, we will not show restraint. We will not send survivors. We will not negotiate. Tell your government. Tell your military. Tell your people. Leave humanity alone." The Menthar government filed a formal complaint with the Galactic Council. They demanded justice. They demanded that humanity be punished. The council held a hearing. Lisa Brennan attended. She was now Secretary of Foreign Affairs for the Human Federation. She no longer worked for the Galactic Council. She worked for humanity. The Menthar representative spoke for an hour about human aggression and violations of council law. When he finished, Lisa stood up. She did not speak for an hour. She spoke for 2 minutes. The Menthar killed 37 human civilians in an unprovoked attack. We responded. They want council protection now? Where was that protection when they attacked our research station? Where was council justice when the Krellians bombed New Haven? You taught us that council law does not protect humanity. Now you complain when we protect ourselves. She looked around the chamber. We are not asking for your approval. We are informing you of our policy. Attack humans, face consequences. It is that simple. You can accept it or you can test it. We are prepared for either choice. The council voted to condemn humanity's actions. The vote was meaningless. Condemnation without action was just words. And humanity had learned that words meant nothing. But something else was happening. Something the council did not expect. Other species were watching humanity. Small species. Weak species. Species that had been pushed around by bigger, stronger neighbors for years. These species started reaching out to Earth. They asked questions. Could they trade with humanity? Could they form alliances? Could humanity help protect them the way the Galactic Council had failed to do? Humanity said yes. The Human Federation began to grow, not through conquest like the Krellians or Draknor, through mutual defense treaties. Any species that joined knew one thing. If you attacked them, you attacked humanity. And nobody wanted to attack humanity anymore. Within 3 years, 23 species had joined the Federation. Within 5 years, it was 49. The Galactic Council watched their influence shrink. Species that used to rely on council protection now relied on human protection instead. Why? Because humanity did what the council would not. When a Federation member was attacked, humans responded immediately. Not with committees or investigations. With ships and weapons and a willingness to fight. The galaxy was learning a new lesson. Rules without enforcement were worthless. Laws that protected the strong while ignoring the weak were not justice. Real protection required real power and the will to use it. Admiral Parker stood in his office looking at a star map. Red markers showed Human Federation territory. It covered a large portion of known space now. Blue markers showed Federation allies. There were dozens of them. Lisa entered his office without knocking. They were old friends now, partners in building something new. The Galactic Council wants to meet, she said. They are proposing a new treaty. Better protection for member species. Better response times. They want humanity to rejoin. Parker smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Let me guess. They want us to rejoin on their terms. They want us to agree to limit our military. To stop expanding the Federation. To let them control human foreign policy. Exactly, Lisa said. They are scared. They see the Federation growing. They see their influence declining. They want to contain us without actually fighting us. What did you tell them? Parker asked. Lisa's expression was cold. I told them we would consider it. Then I laughed. Then I told them the truth. We are done begging for a seat at their table. We have built our own table. If they want to join us, they are welcome. But humanity will never again put our fate in the hands of a council that values process over protection. Parker nodded slowly. Good. Let them understand. The galaxy has changed. Humanity's patience broke at New Haven. We will never be that patient again. We will never again wait for someone else to protect us. Lisa looked at the star map. So many stars, so many worlds, and now so many of them looked to humanity for protection. It was a heavy responsibility, but it was better than the alternative. Better than being weak. Better than waiting for help that never came. Do you think we did the right thing? She asked quietly. Parker was silent for a moment. I think we did the necessary thing. The galaxy gave us no other choice. They taught us that patience is seen as weakness, that kindness is mistaken for cowardice, that the only language the universe truly respects is strength. He turned to face her. We came to the stars hoping for peace. We found violence. We offered friendship. We received contempt. We asked for justice. We got committees, so now we do what we must to survive. And if that means the galaxy fears us, so be it. Better to be feared than to be forgotten. Better to be strong than to be victims. 5 years after New Haven, Admiral John Parker returned to the colony. It had been rebuilt. The ruins were gone. New buildings stood where the old ones had been destroyed. The scars of the bombing were mostly healed, but some scars never heal. In the center of the colony stood a memorial. It was made of crystal pillars that reached toward the sky. On those pillars were carved 42,000 names. Every person who had died here. Every life that had been taken while the Galactic Council debated and delayed. Parker walked slowly between the pillars. He found the section he was looking for. His wife's name. His daughter's name. His 2 grandchildren, 7-year-old Sam, 4-year-old Emma. They had died because humanity trusted a system that did not protect them. He placed his hand on the crystal. It was warm from the sun. Somewhere in the distance he could hear children playing. New children. New families who had come to rebuild. They could play safely now. The Krellians would never attack again. Nobody would. They all knew what would happen if they tried. Lisa Brennan joined him at the memorial. She stood quietly beside him, not speaking. Some things did not need words. After a long silence, Parker spoke. Do you think they would be proud of what we became? Or ashamed? Lisa considered the question carefully. I think they would understand. We did not choose this path. We were forced onto it. Every step we took because we had no other choice. But we changed, Parker said. We came to the stars with hope and idealism. We wanted to be explorers and diplomats. Now we are soldiers and enforcers. The galaxy fears us. The galaxy should fear us, Lisa replied. They taught us to be this way. For 73 years, we tried to be their friends. We tried to be part of their community. They rejected us. They ignored us. They let our people die while they filled out forms and held meetings. She gestured at the memorial. These people died because we were too patient, too willing to believe in a system that did not believe in us. Their deaths taught us the hardest lesson. In this galaxy, strength is the only thing that matters. Everything else is just words, Parker nodded slowly. So we traded innocence for survival. Idealism for pragmatism. Peace for security. Yes, Lisa said, and I would make that trade again. Because the alternative is standing at more memorials, reading more names, watching more families destroyed while we wait for help that never comes. They stood together in silence, looking at the names carved in crystal. Around them, the rebuilt colony went about its day. People worked. Children played. Life continued. That was what mattered. These people were alive and safe because humanity had stopped waiting for someone else to protect them. Across the galaxy, the new reality was becoming clear. The Human Federation was now a major power, not the strongest perhaps, but strong enough that nobody wanted to test them. The memory of what happened to the Krellians and Draknor was still fresh. The Galactic Council still existed, but its influence was fading. More species left to join the Federation every year. They saw what humanity offered. Real protection, quick responses, a willingness to actually fight when members were threatened. Some called humanity aggressive. Others called them protectors. The truth was probably somewhere in between. Humanity had learned to be both, peaceful with friends, ruthless with enemies. Patient until patience ran out. Jake Harrison was a full commander now. He led a battle group of 12 ships. His mission was to patrol Federation borders and respond to threats. In 3 years, he had responded to 17 incidents. 15 times the mere presence of his ships was enough. The potential attackers saw human vessels and retreated. Twice they had to fight. Both times they won decisively. His sister still lived in the outer colonies. Her children were growing up now. They did not remember the fear their mother had lived with when they were babies. They did not know what it was like to go to bed scared that raiders might come. They were safe. That was all that mattered to Jake. Captain Ben Torres retired from active service. He took a teaching position at the Federation Naval Academy. He taught young officers about tactics and strategy, but more importantly, he taught them about New Haven, about the price of being too patient, about the danger of trusting systems that do not protect you. His students listened carefully. They understood that they were part of something important. They were the shield that protected humanity. They were the sword that struck down threats. They were the reason that no other colony would become another New Haven. Captain Kyle Mitchell became head of Federation security. His job was to protect not just embassies but all human interests across the galaxy. He was good at his job. Under his watch, not a single successful attack was made against human civilians. Threats were identified and stopped before they could become tragedies. The galaxy adapted to the new reality. Trade routes adjusted. Alliances shifted. Power structures changed. Some species resented human dominance. Others were grateful for it. Most just accepted it as the way things were now. The Galactic Council tried to reassert its authority several times. Each attempt failed. Too many species had seen the difference between Council promises and Federation action, between diplomatic statements and real protection, between talking about justice and actually delivering it. Eventually, even the Council had to acknowledge reality. They invited humanity to rejoin, but on human terms this time. No restrictions on military forces, no control over foreign policy, no interference with Federation expansion, just a seat at the table and a voice in galactic affairs. Humanity accepted, but they made it clear that they were not the same species that had joined 73 years ago. That humanity had been hopeful and naive. They had believed in the system. They had trusted in Council protection. This humanity was different, harder, more realistic. They still believed in peace, but they understood that peace had to be backed by strength. They still believed in diplomacy, but they knew that diplomacy without force was just begging. On New Haven, now called Haven's Memorial, the crystal pillars caught the evening light. The 42,000 names glowed softly in the sunset. Visitors came every day to see the memorial. Some were survivors. Some were family members of the dead. Some were just people who wanted to remember. But many visitors were aliens. Species from across the galaxy came to see the place where everything changed, where humanity's patience finally broke, where the galaxy learned that humans could only be pushed so far. They looked at the names and understood. This was not just a memorial to the dead. It was a warning to the living, a reminder that humanity remembered, that humanity learned, that humanity never forgave those who murdered their children. Admiral Parker visited the memorial one last time before his retirement. He was old now, tired, ready to rest. He stood before the pillars and spoke quietly to his family. He told them about the Federation, about all the species that were now protected, about all the children who could sleep safely because humanity had learned its lesson. "We tried your way," he said to the names on the crystal. "We tried peace and patience and believing in the system. It cost us everything. So we found a new way, a harder way, but a way that works." He placed his hand on his wife's name one last time. "Rest easy. No one will forget what happened here. No one will forget the moment when humanity's patience broke, and no species will ever make that mistake again." The sun set over Haven's memorial. The crystal pillars darkened. But the lesson they taught would never fade. The galaxy had learned. Humanity was patient. Humanity was diplomatic. Humanity preferred peace. But humanity's patience had limits, and once those limits were reached, there was no going back. The youngest species in the galaxy had taught the oldest ones a lesson they would never forget. Respect had to be earned. Justice could not be delayed, and some mistakes could never be forgiven. The galaxy would remember New Haven. They would remember the moment everything changed. They would remember the day when humanity stopped asking and started taking, when they stopped trusting and started enforcing, when their patience finally, completely, irrevocably broke, and they would never forget.